say. Yeah, now I rep the O, what you know about the west side. I just bought a whip, all in cash, live my best life. Bought a couple stocks, so I'm covered for the next 5.
What's up, guys? Hope you liked that intro we put together. Kind of a fun little twist on what we normally do. Today, we're going to be talking about the C70 and kind of different conditions, winter, cold weather. Patrick and Sam took it up for a ski shoot, as you saw in the beginning of the video. And so we're going to kind of be talking about the benefits of the C70 and where it really thrives and what kind of environments it can do well in. And then we're also going to compare it to this little GoPro here and talk about sort of the advantages and disadvantages of being able to have this little sports camera and shoot all kinds of things, but then also being able to have a little bit of a larger cinema camera and maybe get some better footage. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Hey, what's up? We're here at Mount Bachelor. We're gonna be doing a little complimentary footage to an interview we shot a couple weeks ago about a patient who he got into a bike accident, had his elbow, part of his arm, and then his femur repaired. And one of his favorite things to do is skiing. So we're gonna be up on the hill with him, rip a couple laps, and then the doctor who did the surgery is actually going to be here too, so it'll be fun to get them interacting. We got the C70 and yeah, 18 to 35, 24 to 70 on there right now, and then we got the 70 to 200, so hopefully we'll get some good variety, and then yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Patrick, first off, kind of tell me a little bit about this shoot and just give me a little bit of backstory on the whole thing.
Yeah, so shit.
So Patrick explained it a little bit up at the mountain, but kind of tell me a little bit more about sort of what this shoot was and kind of like who this guy is and why you guys are up there.
Yeah, so the client, they're an orthopedic group, and this guy, this older gentleman, had gotten into a bike accident, and one of his main questions to the doctor was, when can I get back to skiing? We kind of thought it'd be best to get some of that footage to complement his interview and kind of his journey to recover this unique situation. The doctor was willing to go skiing with him, and that's kind of like the deal they made before going into surgery, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that was kind of the whole purpose going into going skiing and everything.
So yeah, we had done the interview prior, and he talked a lot about how that was a big deal for him, kind of setting that sort of goal of wanting to basically get better, get all healed, and be able to go up to the mountain and be able to ski again, and on top of that be able to do it with the surgeon that fixed him and did everything. So we felt that was really important to actually show, as opposed to just kind of hearing about it in the A-roll. So we kind of made that decision that all right, this is definitely something that we want to be able to film and be able to put with him talking about everything that he's talking about. So with that, we kind of developed a plan and figured out, all right, how are we going to film this? What are we going to do? Patrick has done a few shoots up in the mountain before. This time we had Sam as well. So we had two people up there. So Patrick, kind of tell me about sort of your thought process and what kind of gear you wanted to bring up there that you felt was going to be kind of useful, but also not too cumbersome or intrusive to you being able to snowboard and everything.
Yeah, so another ski video that we did, I was up there alone and I just had my backpack just full of stuff. I eventually had a sore back the next day. That was kind of brutal. So having Sam up there kind of helping share the weight was super beneficial. One of the biggest things is, just trying to get tight shots and wide shots and really be able to show off. Skiing is such a cool visual experience, so being able to get those tight shots and wide shots, showing off the mountain, and then also things like gear. So it's important to have 18 all the way through 200 as a focal range to work with was a big deal. We talked about having a gimbal up there, but then I don't know, you can get a nice smooth gimbal shot when riding, and that's cool. But I feel for these types of videos, it's not always riding isn't always the main focus. It's more getting those interactions, whether it's someone on ski patrol interacting with another person on ski patrol, or in this case it's a patient interacting with the doctor riding the lift together, where having a gimbal, and we only had hour and a half, so having a gimbal, balancing that and having you know, in some situations, maybe technology working against you would have just, you know, been more of an inhibitor than something that's going to really elevate things.
Yeah, and like Patrick mentioned in the video, with the doctor that was up there, we did only have a limited amount of time with them. And so thinking about sort of pieces of gear that are not going to compromise like on quality, but also stuff that's going to be quick to use. So like having zoom lenses and being able to have multiple cameras up there for some of the shots. Like we had the R6 up there that was mostly filming the BTS, but we also had the R6 with the 24-70. If we needed to get a wider shot, like you just pass off the R6 with the wider lens and be able to do that. So not constantly switching between primes and everything like that, just being able to sort of go and get as much content in the limited amount of time that we had. So like if we had a gimbal or something like that, that definitely would have taken more time to get set up. With gimbals, usually there's some troubleshooting that needs to happen. So especially in that type of environment where you're going down a hill and bumps and everything like that. So made the decision to basically just have those zooms essentially. And having good zooms is also important. You don't want a shitty zoom. So making sure that you have good zooms that are going to look, you know, close to as good as a prime lens is important, because like I said, we don't want to sort of sacrifice quality to get a shot. So it's important.
Another thing going off zooms, we were rocking autofocus most of the time. Like there's no, especially with zooms, let alone photo lenses, I'm not gonna be pulling focus while I'm snowboarding. So being able to know and rely on Canon autofocus was a big piece of that. It would be really nice to have the whole day up there to shoot and like really get things dialed in, but we only had an hour, and that's kind of, in some cases, the way things go. We're having zooms autofocus to be able to get as much variety as possible in that hour is pretty critical.
Let's talk a little bit about like how the C70 did. Obviously that was the A cam for the majority of the shoot. Like I said, we also had the R6 and we also had the GoPro, but the C70 was like 90% of the footage at least. So yeah, let's talk about how it did. And you definitely have some experience that we can get into in shooting with the C70 in very like harsh environments and cold temperatures and everything. Sure. And there's kind of been like, there's questions about, you know, like the black balance and everything else, and when the temperature changes a lot and all that stuff. But yeah, I'd love to kind of hear how this thing performed in those sort of harsh environments.
C70, we had that one video where I think neither of us were really impressed with the C70 like a year ago.
It was like full circle to that video. I'll link it up here so you can watch it.
Yeah. We're like, yeah, we weren't really impressed with it at that time, but no, it's really grown on me. I think just the capabilities of it, like in this kind of like compact, kind of like 1DX type body, I think it's a really great camera. It's a beast when it comes to battery life. I think that's where it like really, really shines. Yeah, it's got some, I forget, it's like an MP4 codec that the C300 actually doesn't have. I think it's just like, yeah, being a little bit newer, they packed like this one different codec into it. That's pretty solid. Still 10-bit 422, but the file sizes are really small, which can be beneficial in some situations. I've used this camera in sub-zero weather, and it's like still, yeah, a beast. There was at one point where I've gotten like a little bit of latency, like you're moving the camera and you see like the screen just like rolling shutter type look to it. But yeah, it's never like powered down on me before. And then yeah, when we were up at Bachelor, it was probably like high 30s. Yeah, it performed super well.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot too. Like looking at the Komodo, the Komodo's super unreliable in like really cold temperatures as far as I know, and obviously like older Reds especially. We're kind of biased, but having cameras like Canon that are just super reliable in all types of conditions is very nice and very important. Every condition that we've put the C70 in, and also the C300, they've performed flawlessly basically.
Having 10 stops of ND, especially for this shoot specifically, is a pretty big deal. You know, not like the older, you know, Canon cinema line, I think tops out at 6, and I know like the 6K Pro that tops out at 6, and 10 stops of ND is critical when you're in like a snowy area. If the sun's out and there's snow, you need 10 stops. If you don't have that, you're gonna have to stop down. You know, for this project specifically, it's nice to have a little bit of separation when it comes to depth of field.
And even in this video too, you can see the difference between the C70 and the R6. You can definitely see how how much less dynamic range the R6 has. It just doesn't hold highlights well, like with the R6 compared to the C70. So that's something that's super nice about the C70 is the amount of dynamic range that it has. It has the same sensor as the C300 Mark III. That type of dynamic range in those very, very bright environments with kind of that high contrast with the white snow and then the sky and shadows in the trees and everything else. Yeah, super important. Let's get into a little bit about sort of the advantages, disadvantages of C70 cinema camera, any type of larger camera versus a GoPro in sort of like an action sports type environment, you know, skiing, all that stuff. Obviously this isn't like anything crazy, but still, you know, you guys are up on a mountain going downhill. So there's certainly some benefits of just having this little camera that you can throw in your pocket and also, you know, be completely crash proof, waterproof, everything else. There's also some advantages of having a bigger camera that you can put different lenses on and everything else. So I don't know. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about kind of what those advantages that you see are and disadvantages for both.
Yeah. I think number one, we shot the interview with the C300. You know, when you're cutting from an interview like that to a GoPro, you're going to notice a difference. You know, cutting from B-roll shot on the C70 to the GoPro, you're going to notice a difference. I feel like there was a time, I don't know, like five years ago when like everybody was shooting drone footage where it's like it lost its effect. You know, you're trying to get these really cool shots and then you lose focus on story and progressing that story where it doesn't look as good when you're cutting to GoPro when you have, you know, really great shots with a C70. I don't know, going back to focal length, if you have like a really nice like tight shot of someone clipping in to their skis and then you switch to like a wide like POV shot, it's like, whoa, what the heck? How did that happen?
Yeah.
Where that's like the biggest thing for me, and that's more just like watching. Where maybe some people don't really care when they're watching something. I don't know. I think like the novelty of like having a POV shot here and there, like it's not as cool as it used to be because everyone knows what a GoPro looks like and what that GoPro footage looks like.
Yeah, I think there's definitely there's a place for GoPro footage. Having said that, there's also, you know, doing this type of like commercial type video, quality is really important. Being able to have lens choices and be able to punch into different focal lengths and everything without just kind of like digitally doing it in a GoPro, that's really big. And, you know, like Patrick said, being able to get, because we're not just filming the downhill portions of somebody going down a hill, we're telling the whole story. So we're seeing them, you know, get on their boots and go into the lodge for a little bit and hang out and wait in line and all that other stuff. And so, you know, being able to sort of get those less exciting shots in a visually engaging way is important. And so doing that on a GoPro obviously is not going to be as effective as being able to get, you know, some tighter shots, really shallow depth of field, really sharp focus on whatever we're looking at. So I think lens choice is definitely a big advantage of you know, cinema camera, any mirrorless camera, whatever, compared to just shooting with the GoPro. And then another thing is audio choices, being able to throw on all kinds of different mics and everything else and use XLR on a C70 versus the very limited options that you have on a GoPro. We even have the media, you know, extension or whatever that has a microphone and it has a 3.5 millimeter jack, but at the same time it makes it no longer like waterproof because you have to open up this door. So in my opinion, that kind of defeats part of the purpose of a GoPro. Audio is important with any type of video, even if it's just skiing down a hill, like having that type of ambient sound and, you know, being able to fully immerse the viewer in watching it and have visually engaging shots, but also have audio that's engaging and helping to tell the story is important. So that's another part for me. And then like Patrick mentioned earlier, internal ND. With the GoPro, you're basically just working with auto exposure, and so it does a pretty good job at adjusting the settings, and it also has pretty good dynamic range, but you're not gonna beat a cinema camera with a GoPro, at least yet. Maybe in a few years we'll have a new conversation and it'll be a little different, but right now, you know, C70, a mirrorless camera, anything like that is gonna beat the GoPro. One of the advantages of GoPro, however, is all of the different attachments that you can use in different environments, different mounts, everything else. Putting a suction cup to a car and strapping a GoPro on is a lot easier than getting like a full mount and mounting a cinema camera to it, and it's also a lot cheaper if it falls. Yeah, obviously just being able to, you know, throw this on and just ski with it and kind of see that POV, a chest mount, a headband mount, like all kinds of stuff, that it gives, you know, a cool POV with a very lightweight camera. Usually you can do that with the cinema camera, but it's going to require a lot more work, a lot more setup. And so for, you know, a shoot like this where we don't have much time to set up, it can definitely make more sense to just press record, throw it on your chest, and start rolling and get a run downhill. And then here's the little media mount I was talking about. So the audio quality is a lot better, but it's still not going to be as good as throwing, you know, a Rode or a Sennheiser mic on to the camera. With all that said, obviously since our last video talking about the C70, we have grown to like it a lot more. It is a pretty amazing camera for the physical size of it and the price of it and everything else. I think that's just with camera innovation as a whole. There's all kinds of great cameras coming out for cheaper and that are smaller packages and everything else. So it's pretty cool that we can match this camera to our larger, more expensive C300 and have it be an exact copy of that camera for half the size, half the price, everything else. To sum it up, this camera does excellent in, you know, cold weather, freezing temperatures, and we're definitely going to continue to use it in those types of environments. With that said, there's definitely a place for GoPro cameras. We're still going to use these cameras for different things, and there's just certain shots that you are not going to be able to get with a cinema camera that you can get pretty easily with a GoPro. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits of sticking with GoPro and having these little cameras around for those types of more specific technical shots.
Samuel and I might have to do a couple laps after we wrap up with Dom.
Gotta get the really warped.
I'm recording during the boringest run.
Oh yeah. It's rolling. Dude, we can dip down right here. Yeah, go for it, dude. Hell yeah. Oh, buddy. Oh yeah. Dude, the snow is so good. Oh shit. Woohoo! 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 Oh man. Woohoo! Woohoo! Oh yeah. Oh. Woohoo!
That's it. That's fun, dude.
If you guys have any questions or thoughts, feel free to leave them down below. As always, thanks for watching. Until next time, peace.